right, so here is the second podcast that we're going to do. We're going to do the first 3 laws of Life Unchained. And so real quick, just to recap the 11 laws of Life Unchained, they are heal, breathe, move, recover, challenge, learn, nourish, light, sweat, connect, and play. So we're going to go over the first 3 today. And so like I said, the first one is heal. And so one of the biggest things with this and like my intro into healing and bringing the kind of unconscious mind forward and understanding how that really runs the show is the growth mindset. And this is on the flip side of a victim mentality. So like understanding that you are responsible for everything that happens in your life, even if it's completely random. Like on an energetic level, you could be attracting negativity into your life. Or on the flip side of that, if these things are happening and they're so-called like they're negative things, they're bad, like friends get into accidents, you get into an accident, being in the victim mentality is like the woe is me, all these things always happen to me, why me? And just giving away your power because you don't have anything that you can do about it. Opposite of that is the growth mindset of being like, okay, this is my responsibility that this happened. And if not, then just accepting that this thing has happened. There's nothing that you can do. You can't travel back in time. So understanding that there's nothing you can do and using it as kind of fuel on the fire to improve your situation, to learn from failures, to move forward and use adversity to your benefit. Because what is the saying? Diamonds are made under very high pressure, right? And the same thing can go for humans. For very successful humans, there's usually some type of rock bottom. There's usually some type of adversity that the person had to go through. So that's kind of the first thing that I wanted to get into. And then this next thing is limiting beliefs. We're all running our lives with limiting beliefs in there. Some more than others. The people who get through them, get over them, are usually the more successful in whatever avenue they're trying to accomplish, whether it's sports, they're kind of getting out of their way, business, having successful business, things like that. And so one of the like main threads of healing is getting over these limiting beliefs because we were taught them from a young age and they're kind of instilled into us from our parents, from just whoever we're interacting with, could be friends from a young age, and it's kind of downloaded into our subconscious, and that's how our mind makes decisions. So it's really important to understand that you have these, find the ones that you have, whether it's, the big ones are like not feeling worthy. So understanding, creating awareness around why do you possibly not feel worthy? What experiences have you experienced in the past that leave you with that story running in your subconscious? And it doesn't necessarily have to be extremely traumatic in the sense of like abuse or anything like that, because I talked about this before. Gabor Mate has a really good definition of trauma. It's not what happens to you, it's what happens in your mind in response to what happens to you. So it could be a fairly simple thing, but in your mind, it is extremely terrible. And that creates the story, that creates the limiting belief. So really understanding that, if you're living, you probably have some limiting beliefs, and it's about pushing through them, creating awareness so you can change them, so you can re-download more positive ones. With some of them, it's a forever battle that they'll constantly keep coming back up. And it's the iteration of seeing it and being like, oh, that's that limiting belief coming up. I know that that's not true, and pushing forward and kind of moving through that. And there's a really good quote by Carl Jung, and this kind of ties into the unconscious patterns that are kind of running the show. It's like 95% of actions are dictated by the subconscious mind. So this is the quote by Carl Jung. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So that's a really good like encapsulation of if you don't have the awareness around the patterns that you are running and the beliefs that you have underneath, you're just going to be like, oh, this always happens to me. Why does it happen? And so you have to dig deep and go down to the unconscious, create awareness there so that you can then have a little bit more control. And even if maybe you don't have the control, you have awareness of why these things are constantly happening. Looking at the things that are constantly happening, where's the lesson in there? And that's the growth mindset. And then another thing I want to get into after the awareness, what's the action you can take to heal? And letting go is just really powerful. There's a book by David Hawkins. It's called Letting Go. And it's about exactly what it sounds like. Letting go of these stories, these beliefs, releasing the energy that charge them so that they can go about their way and you're not under the weight of them anymore. And I have a pretty good story about a client of mine. We did a lot of letting go work. He was kind of just like stuck in the past of constantly blaming himself for things that have happened in the past. He wasn't able to say specific things to people that he wanted to. And he was constantly beating himself up about that, of what happened in the past. And we just continued to do work about forgiveness, letting it go, because there's no point of trying to change the past because it's impossible. The best thing you can do is just accept it. And I think acceptance is a superpower. Accepting yourself for who you are is a superpower. Not being complacent that these unconscious patterns that you have, you just accept them and, there's nothing I can do about it. Accepting that this is where you are, but also taking the action to change the things that you want to change. And so that's what we did. This guy, a former client of mine, one of the really good exercises that we did was we had him write a note to the person that he was feeling some type of way about. He didn't say something and now he can't. So writing that letter, like really expressing that, getting all those feelings out, and then burning the letter and having that symbolic meaning of like, this letter, this energy is out of me and now I'm going to burn it so it no longer has power over me. And then ever since then, he was a different guy. There was a lack of consistency because a lot of energy was being poured into the story. So we let go of the story, and then now a lot of that energy was being funneled into the things that he wanted to do. So in terms of healing benefits, clearly you're going to have better relationships. You're going to have more alignment in your life. You're going to have a little bit more relaxed nervous system because you're getting out of that fight or flight and coming more into a parasympathetic homeostasis. Your mental health is going to be better, and you'll probably just experience less resistance everywhere in your life. So some action items that you can do in terms of healing: you can meditate, you can practice gratitude, you can journal negative emotions, journal whatever's just going on in your life. EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, it's tapping. You can tap on specific places of your body that release certain emotions. EMDR, shadow work, you can do some breath work, really long, extended, like hour-long breath work sections. Really have good success in just bringing up repressed emotions and just letting them out and letting it rip. If you've ever done breath work, you know what I'm talking about. And that's something that I've definitely experienced, is like a clarity and lightness that you feel after just letting it rip and like letting all these stagnant emotions that have been lingering just go, letting them go. Therapy is a good option. And then NLP is something that you can do as well with a practitioner, or you can learn it yourself. All right, cool. So that's heal. That's law number one. I think that's a really important one as well. So getting into the next one is breathe. So breathing is definitely something that we do every day, and it's a fairly unconscious practice because you don't really think about it. It's run by the autonomic, I think I said that right, nervous system, which is you don't really have control over. It just runs in the background. It's dictated by the subconscious. And so you take about 20,000 breaths a day. So if you think about that, that's a lot. So if you're doing something 20,000 times and you're not doing it right, that is a big negative feedback loop that is harming your health. That is harming a lot of aspects of your life. And we can kind of get into those. In terms of like development as a child, if you don't breathe right, if you breathe through your mouth, this can actually have pretty crazy results. Breathing through your mouth, it creates changes in your facial structure. You might have bad teeth. Your jaw isn't developed correctly. So there might be teeth that are much closer together because your jaw hasn't grown fully. It's kind of like recessed. And you're going to have a rounder face. You're going to have an elongated face. And these things, as a man, that's not exactly what you want. You want that, chiseled jawline. And how you breathe actually influences that. So if you were mouth breathing growing up, you probably don't have that defined, chiseled jawline. And going further into that, from those instances, that creates further dysfunction throughout the body. So like you can have poor posture based on how your neck and your face and your jaw are portioned. It can kind of be that forward head posture, which creates a little bit more rounding on the spine, which is not really what you want. So moving forward into how breathing with your mouth affects you. And we can look at the stress response. You can do this right now. You can take one deep diaphragmatic breath through the nose with your belly and kind of check in with how you feel. So it's like this. That's a fairly calming breath. Like I instantly feel that it's a lot more calm, and I've been mouth breathing because I have to talk, which is a little bit different. So my senses are heightened. I'm a little bit in that sympathetic because I'm breathing through my mouth and my chest, but trying to breathe through the diaphragm, even if I am breathing through my mouth, versus a mouth breath in your chest. Like that's it's that even sounds like a little bit scary, like kind of from a horror film. So if we're taking 20,000 breaths and we're taking it in through the mouth with our chest, that's triggering that stress response, that sympathetic nervous system state, which we are stuck in today. Like so many Americans, so many just people in general who live in today's society, we are stuck in this sympathetic fight or flight state. And it's really hard to get out because we're constantly 20,000 times a day reinforcing that. One of the best things that you can do in terms of just overall health and longevity is start breathing correctly. That's breathing through your nose. And another reason why breathing through your nose is good is because we have these nose hairs and things in our nose that are essentially filtering out the toxins that we are breathing in. And so if you think about breathing through your mouth, there's none of that. You're just getting whatever is right in front of you. It's not filtered at all. And so you're getting a lot more possible toxins that can create a little bit more dis-ease within the body. Going into snoring and breathing while you sleep. And this is definitely an even more unconscious pattern because you're asleep and you can't consciously breathe through your nose. If you're awake, you can consciously breathe through your nose. And so what you want to do here is you want to train your subconscious to breathe through your nose. So it's about when you aren't conscious, maybe catching yourself if you feel like you're breathing through your mouth, or just having like 4 or 5 check-ins, being like, okay, how am I breathing? Oh, it's through my mouth. Let's change back to the nose. So one of the best things you can do is force yourself to nose breathe while your subconscious is in control. So you've probably heard about this. It's called mouth taping. And you put tape over your mouth and you go to sleep. And it keeps your mouth closed so you can't open it during the night and snore and breathe through your mouth. And your body is smart. You are not going to suffocate yourself. If you do get to a point where you can't breathe, you will wake up. Your body will wake you up because it's like, oh shit, we can't get any oxygen. We're sleeping. Let's wake this motherfucker up and let's change this. A lot of times people don't experience that because if you're breathing through your nose, it's more than likely going to stay unclogged. A lot of times why people wake up with a clogged nose is because they were breathing through their mouth. And so their body was using the most efficient way. So like if you're breathing through your mouth, it's going to potentially clog up the nose so you don't breathe through your nose and you continue breathing through your mouth. And that's a negative feedback loop because if it's more clogged, you're not going to breathe through your nose, you're going to breathe through your mouth. And that negative feedback loop into stress. And sleep is the place where we recover. And if that is hindered, if we're sleeping and mouth breathing, those two are in direct conflict. So you're not going to get deeper sleep. You're not going to feel as recovered when you wake up. And this is a big thing to look into. If you're waking up and you're just under recovered, you don't feel like you slept well, look into how you breathe during your sleep. And mouth taping and then nasal strips as well. If you don't want to do the mouth taping, nasal strips, or there's a new thing that I've seen online. It's magnetic and it pulls open your nostrils even more. I haven't tried it, but it definitely opens your nostrils and you probably get a lot more air in through your nose. I definitely want to try that. That is breathing. The benefits, better digestion, better stress management. You have a calm nervous system because you're not feeding that fight or flight. Stronger gym performance because you get more oxygen into your cells. You filter out particulate matter and whatever else is in the air, and just a little bit more mental control. Because think about if you hop into a cold plunge, being able to connect to the breath and consciously breathe through your nose is going to give you a little bit more control over your life. So we talked about action items, using mouth tape and breath strips. Practice nasal breathing consciously until it becomes unconscious. And that's a really good way to do it, is use it with your sleep. Deep diaphragmatic breath work, and you can do some Wim Hof breath work too. That's a fairly sympathetic breath work style. It gets you more sympathetic, but in terms of using the breath to get health outcomes, that's definitely a good practice. And that'll give you a little bit more energy. All right, so that's breath. So we're moving into the third one, which is move. So this is perhaps the most obvious laws to abide by because there have been studies about sedentary lifestyle and how they have compared it to being as dangerous as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. So that's pretty wild, right? You think like us growing up, I was born in 92. And so the biggest thing when we were growing up that was like terrible for your health was smoking cigarettes. And so now comparing that to sitting all day, to living a sedentary lifestyle, which is essentially being very stagnant. And there's some crazy stats about this, about the average American and percentage of Americans that doesn't actually get enough exercise. It's a crazy, crazy stat. I don't have the exact number, but I know it's extremely high if you just kind of look at the average American too. And so there's like those drawbacks as well on the back end of a sedentary lifestyle. You're going to have higher rates of obesity. You can have higher rates of diabetes. You're going to have higher rates of hypertension. All these like chronic health conditions are going to be a lot higher if you're not moving enough. And it seems pretty obvious, but some people, I guess these days, don't have that desire to move. I guess it's just how society is set up these days. It's set up for convenience. So it's like really easy to not move, to not exercise, because you can get everything. Amazon Prime delivers in, used to be crazy that it delivered in like 3 days. Now it'll deliver same day. So like it's getting more and more convenient. And I think that's only making the problem worse. Because, okay, for the person that lives a fairly sedentary lifestyle, but they go to the grocery store and they walk around and they get their groceries. Now they can just order them to their door, so they don't have to get up off the couch. All they have to do is get up, walk to the door, bring the groceries in, and then it's done. So that's a big non-exercise movement that is cut out of people's life because of convenience. Okay, so sitting all day, that can create even more negativity in terms of posture. So you have poor posture, because I'm really in this posture right now because I have to get to this microphone. But that rounded back, hunched forward posture, just from sitting all day, maybe sitting in a bad chair. Yeah, just if you're sitting all day, like you're not going to have the best posture. And then that creates more pain, more dysregulation, because your body is compensating. And so it'll create maybe more injuries. And when you do exercise, it'll create more just like dis-ease. You're not living how we're intended to, because if you look from like an evolutionary perspective, we were on our feet, we were moving in terms of hunters and gatherers, we were up and out hunting for long hours of the day, and it was just more on our feet lifestyle. And when I talk about sedentary lifestyle, some people might think that they aren't in the sedentary lifestyle because they work, they sit in the chair from 9 to 5, and then they go to the gym and they exercise really hard for like 30 minutes to an hour. But if we're looking at your overall lifestyle, they're still living that kind of dysregulated lifestyle. For optimal lifestyle, you want to have movement throughout the whole day. So whether it's like working from a standing desk, taking walk breaks, like on every hour, have a 5-minute walk, whether it's just like walking around the office, go outside, things like that. You want to be consistently moving throughout the day, not just like sit for 9 hours and then go train really hard. That's definitely going to be better than not training at all. But in terms of the law of move, you want it to be a little bit more consistently throughout the day. Another piece of it is the lymphatic system. So if we're constantly sitting, and so the lymphatic system is essentially our detox system, and it needs movement. It needs to be pushed around the body. It's not like blood that can be pumped through the heart. This lymphatic system, the lymph needs to be moved or broken up. And one of the best things is movement. So like running, if you think about running, you're impacting the ground with your feet, and that is causing vibrations to go up your legs, and it's going to move lymph around. So if you're not moving, that lymph is going to be very stagnant. You're going to have a lot of toxins build up, and this is why it gets a little bit dangerous, a little bit unhealthy, just adding onto the list. You're not burning calories, so you're probably going to be a little bit overweight and all of these things. And then the lymphatic system is another thing to throw on top of that. And then if you're sedentary, you're probably not going to have a lot of muscle. Even if you did have muscle, it's going to start wasting because you're not giving your body a reason to have muscle. If you're just sedentary, you just sit all day. Why do you need muscle? Your body's pretty smart. And so that's how we build muscle is you get into the gym and you lift weights. You give your body a reason that, oh, there's a stimulus that's pretty heavy and we just did this. I need to come back and be able to do that easier and then build muscle so I can do a little bit more. Because we're consistently getting into this gym and we're lifting heavy weights. It's like, okay, I think we need to get stronger because this is consistently happening. And if it's not consistently happening, if you don't have any stimulus to create muscle, it's going to go away. You're not going to be as muscular, and then losing muscle in terms of longevity is going to create a higher rate of all-cause mortality as you age. Because you can think about this, if you need muscle to have control over your body, and as you age, it's going to waste away. And if you fall, it can possibly be more detrimental than if you didn't have as much muscle, and more likely as well, because you're not going to have as much control. So that is move. Benefits, obviously, body composition, you're just going to look better. You're going to feel better. Your testosterone is going to be higher. So if we're resistance training, we're moving, we're walking, we're not sedentary, that's going to have a direct correlation with testosterone. Cardiovascular health is going to be better. You're going to prevent chronic disease. You're going to have better recovery because you're moving blood around. You're going to be stronger. You're going to be faster, all these things. And so the action items I already touched on was you can work from a standing desk. You can take a 30-minute walk every day. You can have walk breaks throughout your workday. Strength training is going to be good. Yoga is going to be really good. And then some kind of high intensity or like sprint work is going to be really good as well. Okay, cool. So that is the first 3. I wanted to wrap this up. I didn't want to make this too long. I wanted it to be fairly bite-sized, but I wanted to give each law its adequate time on the spotlight. So that's it, y'all. We're going to go over the next 3. So we're going to go over recover, challenge, and learn next time. So I'll catch y'all there.